Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Allie Rougeot, or Allie if it's easier, and I'm a student at the University of Toronto. I study economics and public policy, but most importantly, I'm a climate justice activist. I'm here today to talk about why I'm a climate justice activist, why I think you guys should become one too, and just a bit more of my work. Before that, I want to say thank you, because fast fashion and fashion in general has a huge impact on our planet, and what you're doing is just really a really important grassroots organizing and educating. So what you did this whole year and what you're going to learn more today is fantastic work, and thank you for doing it. Thank you. I started being an environmental activist when I was 10 years old, and I lived in south of France surrounded by beautiful nature. And I started caring about wildlife protection and biodiversity loss because when I was younger, I thought, how can these huge, beautiful, powerful animals just disappear because of some of us? It was just so heartbreaking to me that I thought I had to act, and that's when I started. And then I started doing more of human rights and women's rights, and that was all great too, and it's still really important. Then one day, I started hearing about climate change. And that's kind of the day where I realized climate change is going to impact humans. And I know it's kind of hard to realize sometimes, but you know, what we do for the environment, it's not just because we should and we have to care. It's because we are nature. Without this earth providing for us and giving us life, we really aren't much, right? Climate change isn't only about those really cute animals that you see in commercials or even trees and plants. Climate change is also about human lives. And what we call the ecological crisis, that's a human rights crisis. Because we won't be able to live our normal lives and have physical stability and mental stability and even financial stability if we don't resolve this huge climate crisis that we're facing. So what are the human impacts of climate change? I can tell you we won't really know peace until we resolve the climate crisis, because we're going to have so many people that have to leave their homes and their families, their communities, because of floods and fires and storms and maybe food shortages. We're also going to have more and more places where there's going to be less resources, maybe less water, and that's going to create wars and violence. That's not something we want, right? For example, in the Middle East, I don't know if any of you guys are from the Middle East, but there's already a lot of wars, and with less water, there's going to be more conflict. And that's why I say when we work for climate justice, we work for peace. So all of that is not just to scare you away, and I know it's really scary, but it's to tell you that when you're a climate activist, and you guys all are by working on this project, you're really going to help human beings, and that's fantastic. So in Toronto, a lot of my work is with the Fridays for Future movement. And Fridays for Future was created or inspired actually by Greta Thunberg in Sweden. And then it was kind of picked up by activists around the world that shared that same idea. And we kind of had that thought that was, why am I going to put so much time and energy into my future by going to school if some adults and some politicians are not going to, care about my future? Why am I going to do my job of just going to school every day if, once again, the people that are supposed to protect us are not doing their job? And then last thing is, why am I being told to listen in science class every day if people are not listening to the scientists that are telling us we have to act right now? So that's why we started skipping schools on some specific days, on some Fridays, to strike and demand more action. It doesn't mean you have to miss school every day. That's not a good excuse. Don't blame me. So the Fridays for Future movement grew. On March 15th, we were 1.4 million students across the world striking. On May 24th, we were 1.6 million students. And that's really big. And in Toronto, we were lucky to have two big events during May. And one of them was actually right here, and then we actually walked down Bay Street. And that was really fun because for once, we weren't just telling our governments that we wanted action. We were also telling every Torontonian, and we were telling the big companies that are on Bay Street, and even, everybody that was just working out there, hey, if the governments are too slow to act on climate and to guarantee us a safe future, You guys have to take the lead. You guys have to get us where we want to be. So sometimes people keep asking me, why are you acting for climate, blah, blah. And when I'm really tired of explaining why our lives just matter, I just say, well, you can't make money on a dead planet. That usually convinces some of them. So now I think is the most important part is, what are you guys gonna do about it? And you've already started, and there's more you can do if you want to do more. So there's changes you can make at the individual level, and then there's changes that have to be made in a broader level, and it's not all on us. At the individual level, you can stop fast fashion, I think you know that. You can limit the single plastic use you use, so plastic bags, straws, cups, anything that you can not use that's single-use plastic, don't use it. That's so much waste. You can organize documentary screenings. For example, one that I really like is Chasing Coral. There's another one that's called A Plastic Ocean, and then there's another one that's called The Human Element. And I can give that to your teachers if they're interested. But the human element, for example, it shows the real people that are going to be impacted by these floods and fires, and it helps you understand, why we're doing all of this. And then there's a couple other ideas, and I'm sure you've heard them, but flying less or asking your parents, hey, can I offset my flight? And these are complicated words, but if you Google them, it's really easy. So all of these are great, and they're really important that you do. And I'm sure some of you have actually started doing these. So we need to also have those big changes. It can't be all of us just fixing all the world. That's unfair. There's big companies that are polluting a lot. They need to do their job too. But I have a really good news, that you guys can actually change a whole system if you want it. Trust me, I know it's hard to believe. So, for example, if you see a company and you feel like they're not doing something really good for the planet, you can talk about this. You can ask questions. You can say, why are you not doing things differently? Maybe, I do that, my parents work in big companies. And so sometimes I look at them and I say, are you really proud of the way your company is treating our planet? That leads to awkward dinners. You can also, and this one is really cool, but you guys can call your members of parliament, your members of provincial parliament, and your city councilors. You can call them and say, hi, my name is Allie, I'm 20 years old, I'm really scared for my future because of climate change, and I want to know what you're doing right now, why you're not doing more, and I want you to do more. Now, have any of you ever met one of your elected representatives? Raise your hand. Even teachers? Yes, you have? That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm really going to insist on that point because Canada is a democracy, and we're really lucky that we have a government that's supposed to work for us. Your parents and other people have elected people to work for us. So we're allowed to tell them what we think. And it's not to be mean, but it's to tell them, hey, we believe that this is a really important subject and you should be working on it. So if you're too scared to call, you're allowed to also write letters or emails, whatever works best for you. And it doesn't have to be long or crazy, but you shouldn't just say why you're concerned. Talk about the work you've already done and give them ideas of other things you want to do, or just tell them, I want you to fix this. I need your help here. So now that I've just said that, who after today, or maybe tomorrow morning, is going to email or write to one of their elected representatives? Raise your hand. If you know you're going to do it, that's it, you're doing it.
Raise them high.
Yeah, that was a trick question. You were all supposed to raise your hand, so we're all going to do it. It's really easy, I promise. So we've actually had several MPs and MPPs, so these are the elected people, that have talked about us in Parliament. They've said our names, and that's really cool. That's also really, really powerful. It really means something. Because I don't know if you realize that because you're so young, whatever you says, it really matters to older generations. Have you ever convinced your parents to do something they really didn't want you to do? There we go. You know how to convince older generations. So you have to use those same tricks you use with your parents on your government. You can keep talking about it. You're allowed to ask those questions and to talk about it all the time. I talk about it so much, no one around me can ignore what climate change is. And then there's a last thing you can do if you want. It's join us. My group is called Fridays for Future, and it's a movement that's really across the world. So in Toronto, we need a lot of young people that are talented and energetic. And it's okay if you don't know everything about climate change, because none of us do. And we're going to learn together. But what we need is people that maybe are interested in helping us organize the strikes. Or maybe you want to help us doing an arts project around climate change. Or maybe a beach cleanup, or a park cleanup, or tree planting. Maybe a sports game for climate. You can be your school's liaison with Fridays for Future. That means I just send you messages with, hey, this is the next strike, or hey, do you want to organize this documentary screening? And you tell me yes or no, and we help you organize it. Or you can come in our actual team, and we have calls sometimes, and we just kind of decide who does what to make the strikes as big as possible and to just kind of spreading the movement. And how you do that is really easy. You either send me an email, if you guys use emails, I don't know, or you can find us on social media, whatever social media you use. Even if you just want to come to our strikes and do nothing else than come to our strikes, you can find all the information on social media. Now there's something else that I think you should all do as soon as possible. It's wearing a green circle like the one I'm wearing here. This green circle, mine is just felt. You can use any fabric you want. Just cut a green circle and you pin it. And if you're a young person, it means I'm concerned about climate change and I want people to act on it. Now, if you're an adult in this room and you also want to wear this, this means I've heard those young people that are scared and I understand them and I support them, and I want to wear this because I want to show that I support them. So I guess the last thing is what are the next steps? So we have small strikes, and they're usually just a few of us with signs to talk to people every Friday at 2 p.m. at Dundas Square. And then we have a bigger strike, and that one is going to be really fun if you can't organize and see with your parents if you're allowed to come, is June 28th. It's going to be at Queen's Park, and we're going to do chants, and then we're going to do a meditation for climate. And the meditation is going to be especially for young people, so it's not going to be some boring meditation for old people. And then we're going to do September 27th. And now that's going to be huge, huge. We're going to ask other people to all go on strike. So adults in their jobs and students at university, we're going to try to have everybody in the city go on a strike to say, we don't have time to keep going with our business as usual, and we really need to act now. So we have a lot of changes to do. And I hope that this doesn't scare you, but instead this tells you, I can do so much. Because remember one thing, you guys are the climate solution. Thank you very much.